In 2020, in Hangzhou, China, a man called the police and reported that his wife had gone missing. She left home early in the morning and never came back. Her phone was turned off. No messages, no trace. But police quickly noticed something strange. The husband who made the report did not appear distressed. He answered questions calmly. Even when speaking to the media, he seemed unusually composed. Not like someone searching for a missing wife. And then came the most important detail. Surveillance footage showed the wife's last appearance was inside their apartment. After that, she was never seen leaving again. A question immediately arose. If she never left the home, then where did she go? The report was made in 2020. On a normal morning in Hangzhou, China, a man called the police again. He said his wife had gone missing. She left home the night before, early in the morning hours, and she never came back. At first, it looked like a routine missing person case. Police recorded the basic information and began standard procedures. But soon, something felt off. The wife's situation was unusual. She did not bring her ID. She even left without her wallet. This did not look like someone who chose to leave. It looked like someone who disappeared suddenly. Police questioned the husband. He said everything was normal that night. No arguments, no conflict. He simply went to sleep. And when he woke up, she was gone. But investigators noticed something important. His emotional response was unusually calm. No visible anxiety, no urgency, no clear sense of panic. In most missing person cases, family members show stress and emotional distress. But this man was different. He was calm in a way that did not feel natural. Meanwhile, police reviewed surveillance footage. They tracked the wife's last known movement. She was seen entering the apartment. After that, there was no record of her leaving. This created the first contradiction. If she entered the home, then how did she disappear? There were no signs of forced entry. The door was intact. The windows were untouched. No evidence of an intruder. The case began to shift. Police could not yet explain what had happened, but one question started to stand out. This was no longer just a missing person case. The real question was not where she went, but whether she ever left the house at all. As the investigation continued, police reviewed additional surveillance footage. They were trying to find any sign of the wife leaving the building, but what they found pointed in the opposite direction. The footage showed her final appearance clearly. She was seen entering the elevator inside the building. The timestamp was precise. Her behavior appeared completely normal. It looked like she was simply returning home. But then came the problem. After she entered the apartment, there was no record of her leaving again. Police carefully reviewed the entire timeline. They confirmed that no footage was missing. There were no signs of deletion or tampering. This led to a disturbing conclusion. She entered the home, but she never left the building. Investigators expanded their search. They checked every exit point. Security logs were normal. Elevator records were normal. All entry and exit data appeared intact. The case was now full of contradictions. If she never left the building, then where was she? Police then entered the apartment for a detailed inspection. At first glance, everything looked normal. No signs of struggle, no obvious damage. But small inconsistencies began to appear. Certain areas showed signs of cleaning. Some spaces looked unusually maintained, as if someone had carefully adjusted the environment. More importantly, there was no sign of forced entry. The door was intact. The windows were untouched. The investigation began to shift direction. This no longer looked like a disappearance. It looked like something that happened inside the home. Police started reconsidering every possibility. If no outsider entered, then the only remaining explanation was internal involvement. And that changed the nature of the case. The missing person theory was slowly breaking apart. As the investigation continued, police still had no direct answers, but they began noticing a new anomaly. The water usage data. They reviewed the building's overall water consumption records and found something unusual. On the night the woman disappeared, water usage suddenly spiked, far above normal household levels. This discovery changed the direction of the investigation. Police began analyzing the drainage system. They traced how wastewater flowed through the building. Eventually, everything led to one place, the septic system. This shifted the entire case, because abnormal water usage usually indicates two things: either extensive cleaning or the disposal of something difficult to trace. Police intensified their investigation of the septic tank, with forensic teams involved. They tested the remaining materials. The results were conclusive. Human tissue was discovered inside the system. DNA analysis confirmed it matched the missing woman. This completely changed the case classification, from a missing person case to a homicide investigation. Police now confirmed one critical fact. She did not simply disappear. Something happened inside the building. Meanwhile, the husband's behavior remained calm. He continued, insisting she had left on her own, showing no visible emotional change, but now the evidence was pointing in the opposite direction. The surveillance footage could not explain it. The entry records showed nothing abnormal, yet the person was gone. And now DNA evidence confirmed her death. The investigation had reached a turning point. All evidence was converging. The question was no longer where she went, but what exactly happened inside the building. With the DNA results confirmed, the direction of the investigation changed completely. Police were no longer trying to determine whether a crime had occurred. They were now identifying the suspect. All evidence pointed to one person, the husband. At first, he continued to maintain his original statement. He insisted that his wife left voluntarily. He denied any involvement. His tone remained calm, with no visible emotional reaction. But investigators now had multiple key pieces of evidence. The surveillance timeline could not be explained, the water usage anomaly could not be explained, and the DNA results could not be explained. Every piece of evidence led to the same conclusion. There were no alternative scenarios left. Only one direction remained. Police began multiple rounds of questioning. During these interrogations, inconsistencies started to appear in his answers. Certain details did not align. The timeline began to break down. His calm behavior began to feel unnatural, more like controlled stability rather than a normal emotional response. Investigators then rebuilt the entire evidence chain. They combined surveillance data, forensic water analysis, and DNA results. A clear timeline began to emerge. A logical sequence formed. She entered the apartment. Then she disappeared. But the apartment itself contained evidence, all pointing toward one person. As the evidence was presented, his psychological state began to shift. Although he continued to deny involvement, his confidence was no longer stable. Eventually, police officially identified him as the primary suspect and took further legal action. The case entered its final stage. The evidence had formed a complete chain. No gaps remained. But one critical question still remained unanswered: the motive. Why would an ordinary family situation end in something so extreme? After the evidence was fully established, Paulus conducted the final interrogation. At first, he continued to deny all accusations. He insisted his wife left on her own. He claimed he had no involvement. But as each piece of evidence was presented, his statements began to collapse. The timeline did not align. The logic did not hold. The physical evidence could not be explained. Eventually, after prolonged questioning, he began to admit partial facts, but his answers were limited. He did not fully describe the sequence of events. As the investigation continued, the full picture of the case was reconstructed. In the period leading up to the incident, there were ongoing conflicts within the family. These conflicts were mainly related to financial pressure, property disputes, and long-term emotional tension. On the night of the incident, these tensions escalated. He carried out the act inside the home and attempted to stage a disappearance. Afterward, he tried to clean the scene and used the drainage system to remove evidence. But the effort was incomplete. It was these remaining traces that ultimately led to the breakthrough: abnormal water usage. DNA evidence and surveillance records. Together, they formed a complete chain. The court later ruled that this was a premeditated domestic homicide case with extremely serious circumstances. He was sentenced to death, and the case was officially closed. But the impact of this case did not end there. It highlighted a disturbing reality. The most dangerous crimes are not always committed by strangers. They can happen within the closest relationships.